Wildcard's current form, we're still not sure. We really aren't convinced that they're going to be backing this up every single time that we see them play. Most certainly, though, it is... You're going to make a case for it. You're going to make a case that Wildcard are in this game. And maybe we might see a bit of spice in the banning phase. I don't really suspect we will. This poor Flores, I don't think he's ever going to get played on Oregon, honestly.
No, look, he's definitely a tough one to let through. Just those Rotero drones are so strong, especially for... Actually, honestly, they're so versatilely strong. Oh my god, I can't even get that word out. But like, they seriously just have a big place here on Oregon. Yeah. You know, holding elbow now becomes a lot trickier. For example, you can't just sit behind that shield. You have to be very careful about keeping an eye for drones, all kinds of stuff like that. So, for sure, easily just take Flores out of it.
Now, the Mirror and the Wamai to go with it. Not uncommon bans by any means. Poor Mirror. Really seen a hell of a lot of competitive play at all in the last at least 2 years. So moving forward, we are going to see Wildcard start on that defensive side. Looks like they're going to be favouring that kids' dorms. It is a bit of a tricky one to talk about because, you know, it really does feel like a site that can hang in the balance on Oregon. If you lose it, you obviously are going to be in a bit of trouble. As we tend to lean into the fact that basement is a lot more secure for all teams, right? We really look to lean into that kind of conversation of, all right, we're in basement. That should surely be at the very least, you know, a 66%, 75% successful rate for these teams. And then it kind of just hangs in the balance for the rest of these sites in terms of meeting and dining. They can obviously, if you are prepared, they can work to incredible success, but they're certainly a lot harder. Now, we'll wait and see what Wildcard decide to do for this first round, but certainly so. Knights will want to get off to the start that they're hoping for.
It's a great point you brought up about the sites as well, and it has some stats that back you up, as well as your ballpark figure's pretty on point here, Manny.
Really?
APAC South, Oregon, Stage 1, second most played map, so we had it 6 times. 67% win rate on every site besides kids' dorms. Kids' dorms was 58% for defense. So yeah, look, very strong case that kids' dorms is the weakest site on Oregon and does tend to be the linchpin. And it really is a critical part of playing Oregon. And if you are on point with attacks and you're, doing your job, you're probably going to win kids' dorms. It's these other sites that do get, at least from the attacker perspective, a bit tricky. In particular, Laundry is always going to be tough.
Yep. Slow start for the Knights. They're not very much so. You know, what we've seen from the Knights in the last year has been the methodical approach, really ensuring that they're doing their droning quite thoroughly. But also one thing we've seen in recent weeks is their ability to explode when it is called upon them. I like this from Wildcard right now. 2 players in security, Joe and Milo, that'll be holding down. Pat, however, surely that's a grenade from underneath. That is not a great start. However, where were those shots coming from? What?
I think Evil Eye in the cupboard.
Big.
Yeah, definitely a big oversight from the Knights. They lost, it looked like it was 2 rows of 3 pellets, of 6 pellets. So they lost a lot of X-Kairos out of that. And that's going to be Impact Trick now. And this is huge, because that is the extent of the Habana pellets from Dino. It means that Juicy, he's going to have to do a little Maverick tricking on that wall if they want it open. Otherwise, it's not going to be open. And now Hayward's found this opening pick, at least to ease some pressure for the Knights.
Seems like Knights have a really good read of this right now. Look how clinical that was. Knights, although they faltered on the opening engagement, they have certainly doubled down in the kill department, and it's only Emo and Pat to hold. Certainly with a bullet hose, you don't want to give too much of an opportunity. 2 players have made their way into Attic now. Knights have so much time to make this work.
They do. They have a lot of time right now. And then Pat's also low HP, so this is a really tough position from Wildcard to pull back. But positioning is in their favor. They just have to wait for Knights to make their rush move and just try and get an opening. Emo Rin misses a big opportunity there onto Sage.
Wow, 2 anchors, 2 hard anchors at that, holding the site. Pat will delete Josh. Juicy and Sage, the last to remain. You just saw one of the players, I believe that was Sage, drop down the hatch. He's going to come back from trophy. The question being, what do Knights have? They had so much time to play with, but Wildcard, they have put themselves into an incredible position nonetheless. A games plan is what is on the cards here. I don't know if Knights have any other option. Pat just needs to be careful. Juicy now forcing the issue. And Emo Rin at a 1v1. This has to be secured. My God, what a round from Emo Rin and Pat to hold that in a 2 versus 4.
Yeah, really, really great job from them. And on top of that, great job early round from Wildcard, absolutely denying the access through that master bedroom closet wall. It was so critical because it meant that the Knights had to go through 2 very tough final points on this attack. They had to come through attic and they had to come through the trophy doorway. So even in that 2v5 situation, it really meant that Emo, Rin and Pat could sit in a moment of comfort. Pat had those smoke babes to really burn the time down so that Knights had to do that little last-minute dash for the plant. It's just incredibly played from Wildcard for a lot of that round, and it's a great way for them to start this map.
You'd be so happy. I mean, seeing how Wildcard have progressed so far in Stage 2, that honestly is the storyline of this matchup. Knights, their fall from grace, and Wildcard, their rise to form in Stage 2 has just been phenomenal. And I think that this is incredibly scary for a lot of teams looking at the Wildcard roster. And even, if you want to dive into this, even in the Invictus roster and what they've been showing us and what they've been proving to us, is that there are no free games. Last season, we definitely saw the points leak and bleed from Wildcard and Invictus. It's just not the case. And now it's kind of gone onto the shoulders of Order and Chiefs, which I'm sure they will be absolutely fuming about. However, it's just such an incredible league so far. This is the pivot. This is the pivot day, right? Play day 4 is where we start to determine the top 5, the top 4, the bulk of what we kind of bring our storylining around is going to be that conversation when we head to play day 6 of what team is really looking the best. And so far, I don't really have a good indication as to who is going to hold their form throughout all 7 playdays.
Yeah, definitely a tough one to read. But look, I think if that first round's anything to go by, Wildcard are certainly hitting some nicer form here, and this could be setting a really interesting precedent, and maybe even a case by the end of the night where that could be on top of the ladder. Like, that would be absolutely incredible given the way Stage 1 went. But we will just see how this map continues to play out. But statistically, as we were talking about with the sites, the fact that Wildcard were able to bank in Kids Dorms at the start there, in theory, they may be able to shoot out to a 3-0, 4-0 kind of lead here if they were able to continue to nail these defenses.
Slowly and surely, we will start to see whether that's going to be any kind of truth to the matter. Oh, the old mute jammer on the cheeky little washing machine. Haven't seen that for a hot minute, but now Knights starting to get a good indication. They will start to have all of those hatches open, so they'll have the option from laundry to security to meeting. They'll now start to push into the side a little bit more, get an indication as to where these remaining players are that are holding. Geo from Pillar could do a lot of damage if they're not careful with Milo just to the shoulder.
Yeah, and just some really strong positions to be held here from Wildcard. Doesn't look like, at least from what I could see, that there was much pressure coming from Bunker. And now Wildcard with that opening pick off the back of Vincia. They're in such a great spot for this defense already. This is just going to start to get difficult for Knights if they get stalled, but that's certainly going to help their Manic.
Yeah, certainly will. Dino leading the charge. Just trying to open something up. You can see a player in laundry for Knights as well. Benny now, this could be massive, but he doesn't expect Sage from the hatch, and Hayward pounces onto Milo. It's only Pat and Emo Rin, but I said that last round, and look where we ended up. Oh my God, Juicy's walked right into the crosshair. Diffuses down in the open. Raven, could this be the comeback that we're looking for from Wildcard?
Oh, it's going to be tough. I mean, Pat is totally stuck in this corner right now. This is going to be big for Emo Rin, and now he's lost Pat 1v3. It's going to be a tough clutch for him.
I like where he's rotating to, but as he's been spotted, oh my goodness, he's found Hayward as well. He's isolated the 1v2, but he needs to find one more fight before we really start to be convinced of this. C4 in the pocket. Shotgun as the primary as well. He could swing close and try to find a kill. The C4, if that had gone an inch further, may just have found the demise of Dino, but look at these lines being held. So well played from Knights in the post plan, and that's a much-needed round straight back on the board.
Yeah, look, Pat and Ema are having to do a lot of work there in the end of rounds, but that was always going to be tough to be able to clutch that one out, especially once Ema lost Pat. So good job from the Knights. It was a little bit of a shaky start to that one, but progressed nicely and seized the opportunity. So they've kept it nice and tight. And on top of that, to build to the storyline we've talked about a lot with these sites and their win percentages, the fact that they've been able to take an attack on laundry is a great sign for them.
It's a really important round to be able to take back. And Sage with the Ying. Now, I guess something we're going to talk about, Raven, and we'll wait and see how much of an impact it's going to have kind of later in this half, is the fact that Wildcard are left in 2v4s twice in a row now. You know, that's really what's given them an opportunity back into this, is some heroics from the remaining players of Emo and Pat. That's obviously not something that you can rely upon at all. You know, you could maybe one round, maybe even two, but it doesn't really stretch past that extent. So there is something about the middle of these rounds that Knights are absolutely running away with. And if Wildcard can tidy that up, if they can stop kind of losing that man advantage so early on, you know, we're talking about the minute 30 mark. Knights are generally left with about a minute left in that 2v4 situation. It could be a lot harder for them to approach the site, but we'll just wait and see whether that is going to play any effect. Don't really know. It's certainly something to keep your eye on for Wildcard.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I just think, yeah, it really is going to be critical. They got the opening pick in that second round just before, but they weren't able to capitalize on that and continue that momentum. And that's where, as you were just highlighting, you know, that mid-round is just the key right now for Wildcard to at least take some pressure off poor Emorin and Pat, and in particular Emorin. I mean, you see him out there on 5 kills. Like, he's put the team on his back a little bit in the last 2 rounds, but at the end of the day, they are still in it. It's just 1-1. We're really fresh into this match.
One thing I love to see from the defenders' side is never just kind of isolating to an anchor default to begin with. It's always extending out, finding a couple of cheeky drones and being able to fall back to site. At the very least, Knights are now going to be forced to re-drone that and drone that side of the map quite thoroughly. But this is a team, I should say, that does so with great effect. You can see that's already a minute off the board. They have complete control of that second floor, and by the way their body language is telling us, they know there's no one roaming on the first either.
Yeah, really, really efficient here from the Knights, as it was in the previous round as well. I mean, they progressed through their attacks generally quite well, and there it is. Sage has found that opening pick onto Vincia, so this is already Wildcard starting this one on the back foot, and the Knights are looking very good with these early rounds and these attacks. I feel like I remember saying this last week, Manic, that the Knights are just so good in their early and general mid-round of their attacks. Yeah, but so often they can falter in that closing of it out.
People didn't believe it. They definitely would have saw it in round 1. So a 4v5, not favorable at all for Wildcard. The problem with this side as well is you're so stretched for what you're trying to watch. You've got 4 different angles and plus the 3 hatches. There's just so much that you are going to be spread so thinly on. And with a minute left, Knights have so much time to actually get closer and closer to the site, encircle around Wildcard, start to suffocate them a little bit. And you can see Geo is going to be forced to peek here right into the hands of Knights, but they haven't been able to capitalize yet.
Geo very keen to try and find the right time to peak this. He's going to get aggressive and freezing now that he's taken out that drone, but he's protected from an ADS. Very precarious position in general. C4 is not going to net anything. And this is the immense pressure Wildcard is starting to find right now as the Knights have pushed deep in through Freezer and deep down through Laundry. They're pretty set for this execute, Manic.
They are. In 15 seconds. I mean, the problem is they still don't have a lot of the site control, but they have the crossfires that they need. Josh finding the first, a quick trade back from Geo, but it's all gone bang. And Knights seem to be out on top. Where is Milo? That's the big question. No way. They line up for Geo and he'll close it out. Goodness me, all he needed to do was stay alive there, Milo, and he's done so. In fact, he actually finds the kill right at the last second, but monstrous from Geo.
Geo just holding it down from the hallway, far out. That was incredibly played from him, and we saw it. We were spectating Geo for a lot of that. Under immense pressure from that freezer angle as well as from Laundry. There's so many wrong ways to be able to peak that, where Geo just, that would have been it for him, over.
Yep.
And then it would have been really it for Wildcard. He was such a pivotal part of holding down that A bomb site through Laundry. So really, really good job from him. And that's going to be an important one to bank up for Wildcard.
Certainly is. It's a great start. Let's be completely honest. You know, we've spoken about Wildcard for the last 2 weeks now, both in OCN and APAC South, and we've been singing their praises, but cautiously, Raven, very cautiously. And I think that so far in the first 3 rounds, we're seeing some moments of brilliance. And this is a Wildcard that isn't relying necessarily as much on the methodical side of this game that we used to see. They are certainly having some moments of just insane individual prowess. You know, Geo there in the third round. It was Emo in the first round. Slowly and surely, there is that argument that just starts to really surround this team, saying, well, man, what can they not do? You know, if they're able to secure this win, we really might actually have that serious conversation about the fact that, hey, end of this season, they may well take first place. If they continue to play like this, there is no telling what they can achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, a great thing to bring it back to here is you think about the end of last year, when it was really like the Wildcard golden days, if you want to call it that. 4 of these players were on that roster. Like, it's really not that different to the Wildcard we knew of last year. It's just stage 1 was really bad timing for them with roster changes, and losing such a pivotal player in Diesel, it's something that we talk about so much. But look, it can't be understated. That does really affect not just the team's capacity to continue to deliver, but also just their overall morale. So to be able to get past that into stage 2 with a great pickup here in Molosca, you know, some fresh energy into the roster, it's been working out pretty well. But Vincier's early rounds, I tell you what, Manic, he has not been working out pretty well. It's 2 rounds in a row, in fact, that he has been opening death.
Oh, is it the 3rd round, actually? Because he was the first person to die last round as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was in round 3. He got the opening kill in round 2, though, so he's been definitely a part of these opening engagements.
Yeah, well, that's not favourable. What I was actually going to mention is that setup that Wildcard were favouring across toward that big tower. The problem with that is Vinny's kind of stuck. It is that do-or-die situation, and maybe he might be able to hold firmly there if it's not really that long angle that's played for. But Knights have done that with great finesse, and I mean, for all intents and purposes, this round is setting up really, really nicely for the attacking side. They can't allow Emo to stay here. They have to flush him out. That is going to be a pivotal position if he can hold it.
I actually love this from Wildcard. This extension is fantastic. He's very well protected by all of the ADSs, in fact. I think I count 3. Yep. And then there's the Surya Gate as well to deny a rush. Now, they've already used utility to burn that. Imorin's is going to pop it, and it's back in the place. So it's either going to be a HP burn, or they're going to have to use more utility or a drone to be able to get through that. There's a gate protecting him from Armory. I think this strat is actually beautiful. And look, the time has just absolutely disappeared. 42 seconds. And the Knights have seriously struggled to get past this. Imorin, though, is going to try and get a bit cheeky with the peak. Doesn't net anything.
Kind of feels like this is a very important point of the round. If Imorin can find a kill, maybe if he can just hold on to this position, it may be the end of Knights in this round, but Dino does a great job of firing back. He's going to progress a little bit further into Closet now. Just needs to be careful. Pat will be swung on from Big Tower. He doesn't expect it. Attic is now in the control of the Knights, but the time, it's dwindled down so much. It's Geo and Milo, 2 versus 4 again. Geo's going to have to come up big here, but it's Milo that approaches and starts the kick, and I just don't see this happening. I can't see Milo being able to swing and secure it, but now it's Geo. It's the Church of Geo, and Sage runs back to hide in Attic. Is this enough, Raven?
Could be, and honestly, I thought Geo could easily just bait him out of this position. Oh my lord, he actually got that. That is incredible from Geo on less than 5 HP or maybe 5 HP, doesn't matter. Oh my lord, this man has just stepped up tremendously in the last 2 rounds, and that's Wildcard jumping out to that 3-1 lead, Manic.
Preacher's going to preach. I tell you what, my goodness, what a performance we're seeing from Geo. This honestly is the Geo we were seeing in 2020. This is what Xenox used to rave about so much, and it's coming into fruition here. Play day 4, a massive day for them, and this is a huge start. Now, we can't I think we need to. Well, I need to be careful mostly of overvaluing this first half, because this is a tale of two sides. This is certainly a story of two halves, and as long as Knights can pull away with a 2-4 half, we 100% back them into the second half to be able to, at the very least, keep this game close. But a 5-1 feels a little bit more out of reach, that's for sure.
I'll tell you what's got to be tilting, Manic, is that is now two Dorms defenses that Wildcard have banked in off a 2v5 clutch. Like, if you are Knights, that has got to be incredibly frustrating. Like, right now, it easily could be 3-1 up Knights based on their early, mid, even a majority of that late round. I mean, they're getting into post-plant situations, just not able to close this out. It's just incredible what Wildcard have been able to do to win the rounds, and it is off the back of some pretty impressive singular plays, as you mentioned. Imo Rin had his moments, and now Gio 2 rounds in a row has his. It's I think it's got to start stacking up against the Knights, because they're quickly losing grasp on the match.
I mean, this is kind of crazy. I literally just said before that we can't really be relying on these players to step up every round, but Wildcard are silencing me pretty quickly. Apparently, this is just a game of clutches. Step aside, Game of Thrones. We got a new title. And this, I guess it's the promising sign for Knights, is the fact that it is coming down to, that last 30 seconds. And they're just not really, they're not giving us a lot of confidence in their approach to it. But let's just have a look and see how this round turns out. The first 2 minutes is just phenomenal from Knights. It's where it kind of falters is in that final.
Yeah, that's it. That is really it. So if Knights continue to dominate or control these early rounds, it does come down to that question of what happens at the end. But we'll wait and see. First minute down, and it hasn't been a whole lot of action in terms of progress made here. It's just about this intel collection, and they're going to have to clear out these players in the vertical spot up in Dorms. And it seems to be the initial focus, but Wildcard can just sit here and really burn as much time as possible. And the fact that half the round has gone by is, it's already looking quite solid from Wildcard.
You know what? Not only half the round, but over half their drones are gone. Only 3 remain on the board for the Knights. Now, sure, they've got the Gemini. Josh can obviously kind of foreshadow what's going to happen if he can get the hologram into a good position, get some early intel. Imo Rin doesn't really want to be losing the Yokai that early on, but it is information that he now can transfer onto Gio and Milo that are holding up top. Vinny's taking some damage in the meantime. That is a massive pick. That's diffuser down as well. If Wildcard want to, they could bunker down here. They could really hold quite firmly. But Sage is reading this like a god. He'll find 2 kills. A 3-3 though. And now with a minute left, Knights are really going to have to get a move on to get this diffuser. Oh my goodness, Milo.
Oh, if he'd hit that, that would have been big. But again, Wildcard have found themselves in this disadvantage coming into this last minute. Vincia also on about 10 HP, so he's only 1 shot. It's really going to be tough for them to close this out. And it's unfortunate because they had such great control of that diffuser. They just got a little over-aggressive. But 30 seconds on the clock. There's still an opportunity for them to save this round, but Pat goes down. It's going to be tough now, Manic.
Tough, near impossible. Vinny holds from the back of Split, finds the first kill. He may be able to get into a position here that favors him. However, the plant is going down behind the wall of Kitchen. And as he slowly starts to extend his reach, they've got the perfect angle. It's a double-edged sword. And Sage cannot find the kill. Both players extremely low, Raven.
This is going to be a tough one, a tough ask, but he can't do it on the peak. Dino will win it out, and finally the Knights close out a post-plant situation, Manic.
Even then, that was a 1 versus 3.
Yep.
Like, these rounds are just not, they're not instilling a lot of confidence in the final stage, is it? You know, really that for Knights is their weak point at the moment, and I'm sure the desk will kind of talk about this after the game and break it down in a little bit more depth and ask a couple of questions to, I believe it'll be Juicy who's on the interview tonight. Sorry, that's a big if they're able to pull this out. I am just assuming they're going to win, and I should not be doing so, but this is a much better scoreline. If they can head into the half 3-3, it's anyone's game.
Oh, totally agree. This is a big chance for the Knights now to kind of cancel out some of the wrongs that have happened in this attack half. If they can get it to 3-3, it's almost just like resetting the scoreline, really, and then they get to start to work on defense. But I tell you what, it is... I don't know what it'd be like to be in the Knights camp, but it is seriously stressful watching these late moments for the Knights at the moment. They just... I had my hand on my head just waiting for Vinny to win that clutch. I tell you what, Manic, it just felt like it was going to happen. And it's seriously scary how sketchy it's getting for the Knights just in these like late area of these attack rounds. It's quite baffling how consistently bad it is in a way. I think bad is kind of writing it off too much, but you know, like it's really not great because they have lost just in this half alone so many clutches.
Yeah, so many rounds have really just gone down the drain when they shouldn't have. Now, I do like the Warden pick, honestly. Knights had brought the Ying on Sage, so, and this was on their last basement attack, so there was a possibility that it was going to come back out. At the very least, we've got 3 flashes, 2 smokes for him to use to full effect, especially in that final part of the round. I can't remember whether we've really seen the smoke plays kind of play to a huge effect, but nevertheless, oh my god, Vinny has been a part of nearly every single opening engagement this game, and so far I actually think he's well, technically positive is 0, right? Is that how it works?
Well, yeah, he's 2 and 2, so I mean, like, neutral.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, look, he's definitely been a massive instigator, if you want to call it that, for Wildcard, and positively in this instance, he's come out on top, and more importantly, he's taken out the Maverick in the first minute, and that is so big for a laundry supply attack. It is really going to make things tough for the Knights. They can try and use Habana, but if a certain hatch is muted or, you know, anything is hindering that, it's just, yeah, it's not great. So it's a big pick to get the Maverick off the board right now, and I think it's going to, really create some problems. Surprise, surprise, late round for the Knights.
This is going to be really telling. You saw Milo make his way back down from the top tier of Big Tower. Now, if Knights weren't watching that, it would be quite obvious. It looks like they're 100% convinced that he's back down. However, that could have been a huge time sink for Knights if they were trying to, at the very least, get that information. Hayward is kind of coming down the back of rear stage stairs. He's going to be met by Geo and Milo. Oh, that's pretty dangerous, that P, because Geo, was actually playing on a bit of an off angle. It falls to nothing, Raven. Minute left, and Knights certainly have not been able to achieve anywhere near the amount that we usually see.
No, it really feels like it's come down to a bit of a funnel here again through Laundry, and the rest of their push is pretty stacked out. I mean, I just saw Hayward running towards Bunker, and there was a player at Freezer. They're kind of all coming from different directions. So really could fall down quite quickly. It's going to come down to some really key gunfights here. And speaking of key, Geo was the man last time in the hallway with a 4K. This is going to be key, and there he goes. Beautiful nade from Josh.
Fine again. It wasn't cooked to perfection. In fact, it does a little bit of damage. Oh my god, what has just happened? It's gone. Bang! Hell's that from Josh. 2 quick trades, but it's not enough. And Wildcard walk away with a convincing 6th round to lead the half 4-2.
Very, very good half from Wildcard. And I mean, look, some would probably say that's pretty standard, 4-2 defense half in Oregon. I mean, yeah, it is. But the fashion in which they won it is... I guess there's 2 ways to look at it, right? It's quite impressive because 3 of those were 1vx clutches, but just the plays that we saw from Wildcard, also quite impressive. Geo in particular in round 3, can't look past that 4K. But on the other hand, it so easily could have been a Knights 5-1 half. You know, if you're talking about those 1vx clutches that were won by Wildcard, if they weren't, and by all rights, they all should have been won by the Knights given the positions that they were in, we could be talking about a stomp right now, and yeah, we're just clearly not.
yeah, a stomp on their attacking half, no less. You know, that's the pretty crazy thing now is Knights are going to have a very clinical second half to bring this back. And again, you know, we're talking about bringing it back, but really, all they need to be able to do is convincingly show us this basement defense. Well, actually, no, they don't even have to convincingly. They just have to show us this basement defense. And then kind of the world's their oyster. They've got 3 sites which are, you know, equally approachable and usable. And so it just is going to come down to what they have to offer, because an Oregon defense really is, we've already talked about the stats. It shows. It's in the pudding, right? 4-2 first half, and we're not even talking about the fact that Knights are out of this yet. It certainly gives good signs. But the way that Wildcard have approached this game, the kind of individual performances that we're seeing, it is a little bit scary. It's a little bit scary, I'm not going to lie.
Totally agree, honestly. It is scary because what happens when they start to more consistently coordinate things together? Like, if they're able to do this as individuals, it really says a lot about the skill of these players. So once they start coordinating like a really solid, well-rounded team, that is scary. And look, it could happen at any moment. We've seen glimpses of it coming all through this stage. If they manage to nail these attacks, it could be tough for Knights. And there it is, Sage. In the first 45 seconds, he's going to say, good nights.
See, this is the thing that really scares me about Milo being on this roster and now starting to flourish and kind of blossom into the player that we expected to see in Stage 1. Well, that we would have hoped to have seen in Stage 1 if Silex was not to have been there, which is just an absolute beast. You could see how aggressive he was on that entrance straight into games, ensuring that they had all the angles covered. The second that drone spots out a player in Attic, he is on top of it so quickly. And now Wildcard, with the man advantage, will start to slowly poke and prod and just add another to the tally.
Yeah, incredible entries here from Milo, getting the first 2 picks and still 90 seconds, half the round to go. That's a cheeky little peek from under the door. Dino just gets a little answer back, and that was a bit of an against the grain kill, and I would say quite important because now that's the Maverick off the board, they're going to have to deal with this mute jammer, and they haven't got the little Maverick hole to deal with it, so they're going to have to try and live drone it. It's going to take a bit of time and effort and risk. Doesn't look like they might stick that, to be honest. They're going to push away, start to work towards meeting tower side.
Pretty devastating, I guess, in a sense. The fact that they had that advantage, they had the Maverick still up, and well, they get done by a cheeky little peek from Dino. I absolutely rate that. Now, see, one of the players coming over toward blue now, going to be putting a bit of attention in elbow. And if Vinny can find the timing here, may just be able to take a more favorable fight. However, the player has fallen back from pillar. It's Josh who's foregone that presence. Having said that, he's still trying to peek.
Yeah, he's definitely keen to try equalize. 25 seconds though. Emo Rin has made his way to site here. He's just sitting in default spot, doesn't have diffuser,
no!
And that is so unfortunate.
Oh, you just have to assume. Milo, my God, what is this? What is this round from Molosca? He is taking names, but it's juicy to be the final nail in the coffin in this round. Gio has to stick it now. Can he get around the corner in time? You bet your bottom dollar. Thank God for Juicy, because that was steamrolling out of control there. What even have I just seen?
That is just... That's grim if you're in the wildcard camp. I tell you what, they were steamrolling. In fact, I'm going to correct myself. Milo was steamrolling them towards a round victory just then. And Vinny upped and TK'd Emo, and it just really fell apart from that point. And I don't know, we kind of lost a bit of control on what exactly was happening towards the end. But, you know, even when it was Milo and Gio in that 2v1 situation, felt like they could have just comfortably sat back and planted. They had somebody to cover the angle. Milo was hot. He wasn't going to miss the shot.
No.
But unfortunately, not to be. Knights bring one back and close the gap.
I just went back and had a very quick look. Vinny, so Milo's crosshair was directly on Josh and had literally started firing. And Vinny has obviously just seen him out the corner of his eye and taken the shot. I'm sure it would have been a gnarly shot, all things considered, but that was devastating. Because what happened then was Josh swung and killed Vinny, who was on pillar. So the fact that that is how that round ends, you know, yes, they still had Juicy with the smoke bays. They had Dino with a C4 in the pocket. They still had enough time left in the pocket to be able to make that work. So it is devastating nonetheless that Wildcard aren't 5-2 right now, especially when that's a basement defense. That's one that you 100% want to be taking away.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, yeah, look, Wildcard are going to be gutted about that. But more importantly, that's going to be a big one for Knights now that it's a bit of an anti-momentum round, and they're only one round behind. They managed to get this Dorms victory. They've squared it up. And I think that is just going to be such a big deal for the Knights because they've been grasping to be in the lead this whole map, and they lost all those 1vx's we talked about so much in that first half. This is an opportunity if they can get this one and then be able to take the lead. I don't know, I feel like it might be tough for Wildcard to come back from. And also after the way that last round just panned out, I don't know whether it affects the mentals or not. You've got to get past it, but doesn't feel good.
Certainly doesn't. It will be a telling sign for where they're at right now as a roster. They can, kind of bounce back and not let it affect them too much. Now, as far as timing goes, it does feel like Wildcard have taken a significant amount of time longer than what we saw. Oh, you got to hit those, Hayward. More than what we saw from the Knights attack, especially toward the bottom side of this map. Generally, we'd seen minute 30, that player flushed out in security. All things considered, Milo is across there and starting to push a little bit deeper, but they've got a lot to do between then and now.
That they do, and this is a very differently paced kind of attack right now. Big engagement right there. Milo lucky to be alive. It was a creeping Juicy down the white stairs, and that would have been a big pick for the Knights. And there it is. Josh has pulled out a big pick on Vincier, continues to be a part of these opening engagements.
The unreinforced wall. It's a free kill if you hit that shot, and just like that, there weren't many positions Vinny could have been playing from. A minute on the clock, and this is now starting to look a little bit more detrimental to the camp of Wildcard. Milo needing to be careful of that player who's still in kitchen. They are yet to take him out or even displace him, and that's a displaced nade. Things seem to be going from bad to worse here. Oh, and wherever Milo can't find the timing, this is not looking good, Raven. There's only one player at the top of white. At the very least, it's a free kill. Pat just steamrolls through games. And Emo Rin will take down Dino. Surely this can't work. Is Hayward going to be the linchpin here for the Knights? He's going to have to be swinging around the corner. He finds the third as well. And oh my goodness. What a display of heroism. You love it.
Oh, I thought for a second Wildcard was somehow going to bring that round back, but no, Hayward, he steps up and finds 3 to close it out, and this is what we started to preface a little bit manic. The Knights, they have closed the lead that Wildcard had built off of some seriously exciting end of rounds, and now this is where it gets scary because the Knights are the ones on the defense. They have been looking, not too bad on the defense, and on top of that, Wildcard have started to look a bit skittish on these attacks.
You look back at the last 2 rounds for Wildcard, okay, and it's the exact same argument that we had for Knights in the first half, which is the fact that they were Wildcard rounds. Last round, it was heroics from Hayward, who really secured that. A quad kill, the last 3 players just absolutely fell like dominoes. And then you look into round 1 of this second half, and it was where we saw the mishap from Vinny and Josh capitalize on it for Juicy to clutch out in a 1v2. So as much as we're sitting here saying that, yeah, sure, Wildcard are skittish, they're still showing us enough that they could well and truly be running away with this game. It's just absolutely absurd that we're seeing Knights equal out these odds, but this is probably the most telling of signs here, Raven. They have to secure a meeting. They cannot allow this attack to go really unattended.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. They do have to be careful of that. And Wildcard, they are hanging in this. And I feel like this round is really where it's going to be telling. It is the often third picked site. So you could describe that as, a sketchy one at that. If they can bounce back after what's happened in these last 2 rounds and take this attack round, I definitely believe that Wildcard can continue to close this out. But the Knights, if they win this, that's 3 in a row. They're going to be feeling that momentum. It just starts to become such danger zone for Wildcard. Because also, we're talking about the second half here. The Knights managed to get this one. only 2 rounds away from just closing out the whole map. You know, that kind of danger starts to creep in.
And it is more the conversation for Knights, isn't it? Because, you know, Wildcard on their attacking side, it is going to be a lot harder to be able to close this out quickly. Whereas for the Knights, the second they take this, like you said, it's only 2 rounds. And they've shown us that they can do it. So, big questions to be answered here in round number 9. I'd probably say more so from the Wildcard camp from what we've seen thus far. Vinny leading the charge. It's either Vinny or Milo. Either of these players have just been absolutely spearheading pretty much every round so far that we've seen. More than happy to be taking any engagements. And just like that, I mean, Milo's all the way through to showers, not holding back whatsoever. Tend to see that when there's no west side control from the defense, though. Very easy to be able to get that.
It's going to be a very important phase right now, is to be able to clear out this top hold from the Knights. But also importantly, I think just for Wildcard to kind of shake it off a little bit, if they can get some successful entry up through this top floor, it's going to be a pretty big deal. And Milo just continuously making havoc over in showers there, taking out Valkyrie camera as well, just situated in the corner of white stairs. He is looming to really spark some danger for the Knights here. Wildcard could get this successful entry if Milo finds that opening.
Pat not going to be successful in finding a kill, but I believe that might have just been the mute jammer that was on the wall, so it might just be enough to get Game's wall open. In fact, it is. Now, Vinny just needs to be a little bit cautious here. Minute 20, and you know, without any real dry contact yet, it was going to come, and unfortunately for Vinny, he's on the receiving end once again. A very quick back and forth allows Wildcard to even that odd.
Yeah, at least they were able to trade that out, and in fact now the Knights players have just dropped back to site, so it has given Wildcard this vertical control. Still a minute to play with it as well, and Milo, he's got plenty in the skeleton key to try and do some damage. You get some really good vertical lines here, and this is going to be critical if they're going to try and actually set up for a plant as opposed to frag this one out.
Feels like we're seeing the Milo highlight reel at the moment. It seems like he's doing a lot in these rounds. Hayward's positioning. Oh, did Gio spot that? Surely. Absolutely. Hayward now stuck on freezer stairs, can only back away and play for the end round, but we've already seen how much of a detriment that can be for the attacking side. Do they have what they need here? Gio looking to show face first, but it's Sage who takes first blood in this encounter. Oh, this is cheeky from Gio. I don't know whether Knights can really deny this. They're hoping for that back plant, but it's not going to happen. Hayward can't find anything, and with Gio opening up onto a Sage, it might just be on like Donkey Kong. It's a 3 versus 2, and really, once again, Hayward on this pistol is just taking names here, Raven.
This match has just been insane with how quickly these are swinging. I cannot believe that Wildcard got away with this plant, but here we are. Post-plant, 25 seconds to go. Hayward and Josh need to make something happen because this time is ticking fast. They're going to go for this vertical play to try and push out Milo, and he is sitting so patiently. This is going to be big. He sees one player, misses the mark though. Very small window of opportunity here to try and get this counter defuse. It doesn't look like it's going to happen here. Gio closes it out for Wildcard. Incredible that they have pulled that back, Manic, and they have gone back out to this 5-4 lead.
Yeah, I mean, you know, this is not a clinically incredible match to watch, right? It seems like it's really scrappy, and that's because it is. But so far, I mean, you wouldn't even say who's coming out in top. You know, the fact that Wildcard are only 1 round ahead doesn't really tell the full tale of this game. It has been utter chaos, but a chaotic start has kind of turned into a chaotic end. And that's a big, big round on the board. If Wildcards can't secure that, you really do look to the Knights to close this out. Now we go back to basement where it was really anyone's sight. Might give us a little bit of confidence. I say might with bated breath here, Raven.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a strange match just all up. You know, like it feels like one team... I feel like this is the best way to summarize this match, is it can feel like for the majority of the round that one team has control, and then it'll just completely flip, and then the other team will just end up winning it. Because quite honestly, in round 9, it felt like the Knights had all of that. You know, like they'd done such a great hold of upstairs. They'd been able to really repel Wildcard for a lot of that. Even Gio, where he was planting, from memory, don't think he was covered. Like, when they eventually rushed him in post-plant, he got his own kills, and then he retreated. It wasn't him being covered. So Knights maybe just messy on comms or just lacking intel. I know that's something that we didn't see, or we did see on the attack, is that they were losing a lot of drones early. So it could be the same in the defense, just in terms of lacking information. Regardless, the fact is, Wildcard, they're up 5-4. They're treading closer to a win here, but it's just... It's one of those matches where this could quite easily end up being 8-7, I tell you what.
Playday 4, the day of the MLG highlights, I tell you what, that's what it feels like. The old style highlight reels that we used to see so often. It just seems to be coming out. So many 1vx clutches. The fact that Geo has now once again stood up massively for Wildcard. Not only did he get the diffuser down, he then got 3 kills of his own, including the 1v2. You know, you look at the side of Knights. We've seen it from Juicy. We've seen it from Hayward. It just continues to show us incredible moments. Now, we do want to see that somewhat tidied up into it really being a bit of a cleaner match. It's definitely hard to say that right now, but so far, it's been one to remember. We can say that at the very least.
It certainly has. Now, how is this round going to pan out? Because we are halfway in. No HV taken off either team. Wildcard have had some pretty good progress here. They have full control of first floor. Got that server hatch open in towards the freezer drop. And they haven't really given an intent in exactly where they're pushing. And this could be huge from Dino. He misses it though.
Oh! What was that? The timing on both of those. The fact that Dino doesn't find the head of the Maverick and then the C4. Goodness me, it's a calamity of errors, but it doesn't make a difference. What I really liked before that was actually Vinny turning the corner of Z and pre-firing the stairs of Laundry, which we saw Dino find that kill on earlier. Cheeky nonetheless. And now Dino's found himself in the corner. Geo will spot him out on the drone. Quite important, actually. He could have sat there and played for a bit of a very, very tricky position to flush out. Instead, turns into somewhat of nothing. A 5v5 with 40 seconds, Raven. This is going to be spicy.
It is going to be spicy. And again, Wildcard haven't really made super intent exactly where their push is coming from. Primary going to be Laundry, though. Geo finds that opening finally. And we've got 2 players here ready to push in for this post plant. And there come the kills, Manic. Here we go. Fire up.
Yeah, this is absolutely... Oh my God, again! What is going on with this matchup? Basement for the second half is just like... I'm so confused as to what I'm seeing right now. First it was Vinny, then it was Geo. Regardless, it's a good round from Knights, I guess. I'll be honest, I don't even know what just happened. I really don't know.
Just absolute chaos. I mean, I'm not even surprised that there have been team kills, because these rounds have started to come to an absolute dramatic, chaotic conclusion. That round was, I feel like, the pinnacle of it. We saw 0 gunfights until I think about 45 seconds to go, 30 seconds to go, even less, I believe. And then it just was nuts. You know, you had smoke babes, smoke grenades covering us, or flashbang icons popping up. So, look, I'm not surprised there was a team kill, but it perfectly depicts what this entire match has felt like, honestly. And I'm not at all surprised they're at a 5-5 scoreline right now. And this is where it gets pretty hectic, because this is where the business end of the match comes. Yeah. 2 rounds away is a victory. We haven't seen 2 consecutive rounds since the opening of the half, at least. Just doesn't feel likely to happen at this stage. So I don't know. My gut feeling is we might be tracking towards some overtime right now.
Yeah, I hope it does. I mean, it's, you know, coming down to a nail-biting conclusion. This match, I think a lot of us would have expected Knights to kind of be really dominating. And to an extent, you know, there is the argument to say first half, they were looking really good, just couldn't clean up in the final 30 seconds to a minute, the final stage of the round. But here's the tricky part for Wildcard. This was their most convincing sight that they've shown us so far. The second round that we saw from Knights on this site was really quite dangerous and quite deadly. So It is a concern. Wildcard really struggled flushing out Hayward in security, and he has been a massive player so far. Someone that would be very, very, well, just not very, very, just missed. He'd be missed if he falls down in this engagement, in this encounter. So, without a doubt, this is really where we can hope that either it's safe and sound from Knights or Wildcard just step up.
Yeah, and look, I'm gonna back you up on the Hayward comment. I'll tell you what, not just this match, but this whole stage. I feel like he's just been playing so well. He is the Knights' highest rated player and also has the most positive KD for the team. So he's really key to a lot of their successes. A lot of their run in general has been down to Hayward playing so well, but definitely this stage, keeping the Knights in it, has been Hayward. So they can't always rely on him. See whether they can kind of back it up here. But again, it's just another one of these rounds where half of it's just gone manic.
Yeah.
Wildcard have not really made a massive amount of progress. They're really just entering now to start to try and make a dent in this defense.
Oh, I believe that was right into games. Hook, line, and sinker from Knights. No, just on the outside. So the hallway has given a deadly conclusion for Wildcard, or at least to Milo's run. He's been benched in round 11. With a minute left on the clock, you feel like the buck could have had a huge impact. Like, really could have displaced a lot of these players should they have been able to get any vertical control, which it doesn't look like they've been able to. Again, it looks like a lot of the pressure that they're putting on is horizontal, Raven. And, I mean, surely we don't see Hayward go big again.
Definitely has the opportunity. I mean, if they continue to push just primarily through Master Trophy, then sure, Hayward could maybe go for the flank, or he could still have C4 impact below if they don't hold it or clear it out. Geo at least putting some pressure in from Attic is going to divert some of the focus here. But certainly the Knights, they have this round firmly in their sights.
15 seconds and counting. My God, there was a nice shot from Sage, but very quickly responded on by Vinny, who steps forward and steps up for Wildcard. Very quickly squashed out by Sage. And that was so much more convincing. That may well be the most convincing round we've seen so far.
Felt like it. I mean, it felt like it was always going to come down to how we basically watched that play out. And it did feel like that the Knights were always going to be able to back that one in because they just had serious control. And as you'd pointed out so clearly, that Wildcard, they didn't opt for any verticality. So it meant that there was still some very comfy positions deep in sight for the Knights players. They just had to watch for exactly when the funnel came. Now, the key to turning that was Vinny. If he had got that kill in dorms or in kids, that really would have changed, I think, the situation. But unfortunately for him, it didn't work out. And now we are at a Knights situation on match point, and they've just used attack timeout.
One that's going to be very much needed. Very, very much needed. A breather that may just give them what is needed. And, I mean, no matter what happens from here on out, it's been a wild ride. It's been an entertaining match. And wherever we head from here, you know that the last minute of this round in particular is just going to be insane. It feels fitting that we go to overtime. Honestly, it feels fitting. However, Knights may just have a completely different idea of how this finishes.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. And I've got to be honest, like, I feel like looking back across this whole match, I still feel like a majority of the rounds have felt more like Knights rounds. It's just Wildcard have had a serious knack of being able to turn the tide and close it out. I would love to deep dive back into just the extent of how many clutches they've had. But as we were saying at the half turn, Knights easily could have had half one at 5-1. And even this whole half, the only Wildcard attack win was a Geo 1v2 clutch to that point. It could have been such a whitewash for Knights, but it just hasn't. Wildcard have been just being niggly and hanging in there and constantly turning these rounds around out of nowhere. The fact that it has gotten to this point, I think, should be frustrating for Knights.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, I mean, it indicates that the Knights should, in theory, win this round. But yeah, look, gut feeling is it could be OT.
Look, as much as I want this to go to OT, and I think it would be fitting for Wildcard, it literally... I think it would be just so frustrating. You're 100% right in saying that for Knights. And the last time we saw this round, it felt like it was somewhat of a gimmick plant. You know, he kind of just snuck into the corner of kitchen, the only place where there was no utility to stop that plant. Now, that said, gimmick is definitely not the right word, but it was a one-off that I don't think they'll be able to replicate. And in all honesty, Knights had their T's crossed outside of that. You could say their T's were crossed and their I's were not dotted, but it still came down to a very close finish. And so far, it looks like a very similar approach that we saw from Wildcard in that first round.
Yeah, so far it does, but what's pretty critical right now is at least they haven't lost an opening pick just yet. And that's... going to be actually going in their favor as Milo finds the first kill for the round. And this is big now as Vinny steps up. This could be what they need to push this to OT, Manic.
This is going to be a huge turn of events. Wildcard coming into the final round. If they send this to overtime with this kind of a convincing finish, which they have done, this is the momentum grab they were looking for. This is the turn of the points. This is everything for Wildcard and their campaign.
That was nuts. That was the cleanest attack round. I'm actually just going to straight out say it, probably the cleanest round the entire match that we've seen from, I'm going to say either team, but also particularly Wildcard. That was just, I think within about 20, 30 seconds at the halfway point, we just flipped the switch, all the Knights gone, round over, and here we are in overtime. So... yeah, I don't know. That was a bit strange and very against the grain. But OT, it means that Wildcard are continuing on the attack.
Yes.
Second pull of round out like they just did. They are certainly going to be in the box seat to close this.
That's the thing. Statistically speaking, the OT siding is definitely going to be favouring Knights here. However, we know how much of a different story this is. Now, what we can also reference is the fact that both times Knights have started on their basement defense. Well, not both times, I should say. That the basement defense was their preference in that first round of their second half. So there would be an inkling from Wildcard that may be where it starts. Now, I couldn't imagine it's going to really change anything about their approach. It doesn't look like their operator lineup has really changed drastically throughout the match at all. I think Geo may have been swapping out the Yana for, was the Jackal on the odd occasion, but outside of that, there's been nothing insane that they've really been bringing to the table. So it will be stock standard. However, might just give Knights a bit of a heads up within the first minute, 2 minutes of this round.
Tell you what though, Hayward, he is in a bit of a rat position, as I know Dev Milo would call it for sure. He's not sure he's been droned. There's a drone coming through now, though, so either way, he's going to have to pull back. But if it hasn't come Shower's position, this could be devastating, honestly. If they do not realize that he's here, they're finally doing a map control clear.
Oh, no.
And this could be huge. He is spotted. Big engagement coming up, and he is going to be on top with it. Doesn't get the second, so at least it's traded. But the impact player, Milo, off the board.
That's the thing, though. It's kind of Titan for Titan, isn't it? Hayward and Milo down, who arguably both players have been having one of, if not the most impactful players. Obviously, Sage and Geo are still well and truly up there, so they'll lift the weight of the fragging department on their team. But goodness me, we've seen Milo consistently take the first steps for Wildcard into Showers in nearly every round. And that time, Hayward nearly got away with murder. If he had decided to leg it, he might have been able to get away with that. Regardless, though, it does come to half a round, and there's no real true indication at the moment. Maybe the fact that the Buck is not on the board, that Valk is going to have such a large impact, you'd have to imagine.
It feels like it's stacking up to a scary execute for me, honestly, Matic. They're all looking like they're going to be going for this double window plant, which is going to have a lot of pressure through the white stairs position. It isn't easy to just kind of take if there's no pressure coming from trophy, games area, even attic. Something has to split it. Now we see Geo on the roof kind of going in that direction. Maybe he's the one that's going to divert this pressure. They still have a minute on the board, and Sage is still in top of Big Tower here, finally rotating back at least.
A reinforcement to kind of lock that position off if Sage should do so. Doesn't look like he's going to commit to that though, so maybe still a point of rotation that could essentially affect that. This is large though. The sound cue will certainly give it away. No! What? They're not even looking at white stairs. Fortunately enough, Dino will clean up the mess. That could have been devastating with two players pushing in on the back of each other. And that is a huge round for the Knights to start off with in OT. This is the telling tale. What have they got in their attack?
Yeah, look, good call from the Knights to go to dorms. It's still 0% win rate on a wildcard attack for them at least, so I think that was a great read. It's clear that wildcard has struggled with it. I tell you what though, the fact that two players walked up white into a Banshee, they took a bit of time to clear that. Good 2-3 seconds of it being active before it got cleared. And they still got through to site and they got to pick through dorms. That could have been devastating for Knights, honestly. Yeah. It really could have. But they stepped up and held it, and here we go. This is their chance. They get an attack onto dorms, which they did not in the first half either. That would get them the win. But yeah, look, statistically, nobody has won an attack on dorms in this match.
I feel like, and I'm going to have a look at the old classic DevMarta spreadsheet here. I kind of made a wild accusation that Wildcard hadn't really changed their attacking lineup, but I am seeing the Frost, which I do not believe we saw at all in this matchup. No, I am completely wrong. It was brought in the 4th round for Wildcard. So there you go. Thank you to DevMarta. I nearly had egg all over my face there. But it is a dangerous site to be able to bring that Frost onto. And again, we will reiterate, the lower the IQ, Matt, the higher the impact.
Also, it depends. Like, if it comes down to a wild execute, so often we see these players just kind of forget to look down. You know, like, you're so conscious of it mid-round, early round as you're getting map control. But when it comes to that little hustle at the end, it can easily slip your mind. We do see it a lot. So, yeah, I think it could certainly be of impact. Whether it is, though, let's wait and see. But I think the biggest call out here is just the Dorms victories for Wildcard on their defense were 2v5 clutches from Emo Pat on the first round and Geo Milo in round 4. So if I'm Knights, I'd be looking at that and saying, most of this attack is fine. Let's just close it out.
Ooh, hoy, hello. Emo Rin unfortunately falls victim to a gorgeous nade. And that's big because that is actually the player that sits into bedroom. And look at all the utility they had to use. Pat, oh my goodness. That is a lifeline and a half that has been given to the side of Wildcard. Vinny's still up in Big Tower at the moment. I guess he may actually play quite a large impact should Knights decide to come across here. We know that they've put 2 or 3 players into Attic each time that they've approached dorms. And if he is allowed to sit here undetected and unknown, he could do some really, really dangerous things, at the very least. A terrible word to use, I know, but a minute and a half left and Wildcard are looking wounded.
They are. They're just so lucky they didn't lose Pat, because that's really a big thing they have left going for them. And that is also big from Vinny to take out Josh on the long range from Big Tower. Also even out the man count.
Oh.
This is swinging heavily back and fast into the Wildcard hands.
Feels like that kill going undetected and unknown from Vinny may swing the round quite heavily. You know, Geo very quickly, or maybe Pat, doubled up on that response. And just like that, it looks like Hayward's going to have to be the point of first contact. Vinny stays close. It is a drone in for Hayward, but the swing could be anything for Vinny at the moment. You just don't know. There is still a player sitting all the way back in the pit. And that right there might have been Dino taking control of bedroom. It is, Raven. 30 seconds. What's about to happen here?
I think we're about to see something pretty hectic. They're still working at this wall. Milo, he's not going to be expected to be there. He might get his feet spotted, though, by these ex-Kairos, but Less than 20 seconds, Matic. Can Knights get the double? We going the full distance?
Oh, Milo, surely he is the linchpin of this round. They don't check him. He finds a double kill. And just like that, Wildcard send it to a 15th. Oh my word.
That was just unbelievable. And I reckon what happened is there was just a piece of that reinforcement left at the bottom. The X-Kairos didn't clear and perfectly hid his little feet. I tell you what, that is just incredible from Milo to pull that off. And the Knights, again, have not been able to close out an attack on Dorms. I mean, neither of these teams have done it, but the Knights are constantly doing so from the opening pick and yet to convert.
How fitting is it that we mentioned, well, you had said that right at the end of the round, you know, players aren't necessarily looking at their feet when things are chaotic. And right there, right then and there, would have been the moment for a player to look down and see the feet, and that may have been enough. It's all too fitting, Raven. It is all too fitting. And this is so dangerous now. We go to the basement defense, which the first round we saw Wildcard attack. My goodness, that was their round. That was 100% their round to take. But the second round that we saw from Knights was so convincing. It is a concern as we head into the final round. There is no other opportunities for Wildcard here. They have to convert this.
They do. And again, Laundry Supply is another site that was a winless attempt from Wildcard in their actual attack half. Lost it twice, round 7 and round 10. As you said, you know, like that round 7 attack, it did actually look like it was going to be theirs. Got very chaotic. We saw Vinny TK Emo Rin when he was on site, all kinds of stuff. If they can tighten it up, maybe they got an opportunity, but I'm just, statistically, this is in favor of Knights right now, but so hesitant to say that.
It really, I think we've been hesitating saying pretty much anything for sure this match. This match has just been one of the most wild that we've seen in a long time. And the pressure is split. You know, this really should have been Knights' game through and through. Wildcard have continued to really prove that they are an improved roster. I mean, improved is a funny word to use when we're watching a game like this, the chaotic mess that has been the last 14 rounds. However, they are certainly giving us a really good sign as to things for the future. This would be, once again, just a massive scalp to be able to take.
Yeah, it would be huge. But to do so, got a huge task ahead of them. They've got to do the unthinkable, and that's win the attack of Laundry Supply. And it's a slow going at the moment, but they've made some steady progress, and they've got really good map control. They got the first floor completely. And here's Dino again trying to pick this. Very close last time. This time, not even going to really see Pat. And neither did Pat see him. Could continue to pounce. But this is a big deal now because with the Maverick in play, they're going to be able to get this hatch open. On top of that, it's just generally moving towards a 5v5 chaotic end, which is what we saw in round 10, which heavily went into the Knights' hands.
Milo once again going to be watching the line on the shoulder of Vinny there. Now, this is really awkward for Juicy. No, he gets out alive. That's all right. They weren't watching the hatch whatsoever. They may have been able to bring him to his demise, but him staying alive, all things considered, are quite large. You know, 50 seconds left. Again, you spread yourself so thinly on this site when you lose a player that now Knights are actually in a pretty decent position with 45 seconds left.
And again, Wildcard, they're really just going through the split push of Laundry and Freezer. They don't have a massive amount of control otherwise, so it's really going to come down to somebody getting some picks here. Could be on the back of Imarin. He could be able to drop Meeting Hatch and make an impact, but 30 seconds, Matic. This is where it's going to go crazy.
No way! Wildcard find the first two. Josh and Juicy combine. The trades are exactly what are in order. And my goodness, it goes from bad to worse. Knights stamp out any fire that was starting to spark here. Hang on. Emo Rin. The story goes like this. He finds the first, turns the second, but he doesn't know where Juicy is. He's chasing around and Juicy's sitting in Laundry. It's done and dusted. Knights take them down on a win, and that is the 2 points secured with the dub. What a close match.
Such a close match, and that is just unfortunate. Immerun at the end chasing ghosts as the Knights chased down the dub. 8-7. Oh, what an incredible game. A very entertaining and interesting match to have watched and been a part of, I tell you that, Rob. But I think a big takeaway from this is Wildcard are certainly looking a lot better in Stage 2.
I would almost make the claim that Wildcard